Welcome to Legacy Coins. And today we are diving into something that is going to make you want to run straight to your coin jar the moment this video ends. Because what if I told you that a simple quarter, yes, a 25-cent coin that most people dig out of their car's cup holder without a second thought, could be secretly worth more money than most people will earn in an entire lifetime? We're talking about a coin so deceptively ordinary, so perfectly disguised as everyday pocket change, that millions of people have already passed it through their fingers without ever knowing what they held. The coin in question is the 2000 P Washington quarter. And before you scroll past thinking this is just another coin video, you need to hear this, because the most extraordinary version of this coin has been valued at an almost unbelievable $181 million. And the story behind how it got there is one of the most jaw-dropping tales in the entire world of numismatics. That is right, $181 million for a quarter. Let that number sink in for just a moment before we go any further, because by the time we are done today, you're going to understand exactly why certain versions of this coin have driven collectors to absolute madness, and why some of the luckiest people on the planet found one without even looking for it. And before we get deep into this incredible coin, I want you to stay with me all the way to the end of today's video, because we have another coin coming up next that is so shocking, so historically loaded, and so astronomically valuable that even seasoned coin experts have described it as something straight out of a dream. I'm not going to tell you the value just yet, but I will say this. It makes most rare coins look like pocket lint in comparison. And trust me, you do not want to miss a single second of what is coming. But first, let us talk about the year 2000, because understanding the world this coin was born into is absolutely essential to understanding why it became the legend it is today. The year 2000 was not just the turn of a new century. It was a moment of global transformation, technological explosion, and political drama. The world was emerging from the shadow of Y2K fears. The dot-com bubble was hovering at its peak, and the United States Mint was operating under enormous pressure to produce hundreds of millions of coins to meet the country's daily economic demands. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by the letter P stamped on coins produced there, was running at full capacity, pumping out Washington quarters at a breakneck pace as part of the United States' famous 50-state quarters program, one of the most ambitious coin production initiatives in American history. Launched in 1999, the state quarters program was designed to release 5 new quarter designs each year for 10 years, with each design representing a different U.S. state. By the year 2000, the program was in full swing, and the Mint was producing quarters for Virginia, Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, and New Hampshire. 5 beautiful designs, 5 unique pieces of American identity struck in metal and sent out into the world. But here is where things start to get interesting. Because in any large-scale manufacturing environment operating under intense pressure and tight timelines, mistakes happen. Dies crack, planchets get fed through incorrectly, double strikes occur, and sometimes, just sometimes, coins slip through the quality control process that should never have made it into circulation at all. These errors, these beautiful, glorious mistakes, are the heartbeat of rare coin collecting. And the 2000 P quarter has its own extraordinary chapter in that story. Among the most coveted errors associated with the 2000 P quarter series are the dramatic double die obverse. Coins where the die used to strike the coin's face was itself doubled during its creation, producing a coin where the lettering, the date, the portrait of George Washington, or the inscriptions appear to be slightly duplicated, ghost-like, as if the coin is almost vibrating with 2 identities at once. When you hold a confirmed double die 2000 P quarter under proper magnification and see those telltale doubling lines sweeping across Washington's profile or dancing along the words "In God We Trust," you are looking at something that the vast majority of coin collectors will never hold in their hands in their entire lifetime. Then there are the off-center strikes. Coins where the planchet, The blank metal disc used to create the coin was not properly centered in the press at the moment of striking, producing a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, sometimes leaving a crescent of blank metal so wide it makes the coin look almost surreal. An off-center strike of 50% or more on a 2000 P quarter in pristine condition is the kind of find that makes grown adults cry with disbelief when they realize what they are holding. Collectors have been known to pay staggering sums for these pieces, and with good reason. The combination of the state quarters program's historical significance, the Philadelphia Mint's production records, and the rarity of genuine high-grade errors makes these coins a perfect storm of numismatic perfection. Now, let us talk about what drives a coin's value into the stratosphere, because understanding this is the key to understanding how a 25-cent piece can carry a valuation of $181 million. The world of professional coin. Grading operates on a scale developed by the Sheldon scale, running from poor, 1 at the very bottom, to a perfect mint state, 70 at the absolute pinnacle. A coin graded en masse. 70 is theoretically flawless. No contact marks, no dye deterioration, no surface blemishes of any kind, perfect luster, perfect strike, perfect in every dimension that can be measured. Now imagine an already rare error coin, say a dramatically double die 2000 P quarter, surviving decades of potential damage, somehow making its way through the chaotic world of circulation untouched, and then being submitted to a top-tier grading service like PCGS or NGC and receiving that perfect grade. The number of such coins that could realistically exist at any given moment is so astronomically small that the concept of supply and demand alone begins to justify values that seem impossible on the surface. Add to that the provenance factor, the documented history of who owned the coin, where it was found, how it was authenticated, and you begin to build a narrative around a piece of metal that transforms it from a simple coin into a historical artifact, a cultural monument, a tiny round story that collectors will pay almost anything to possess. The auction history surrounding premium 2000 P quarter errors is filled with moments of genuine drama. Bidding wars that stretched on for hours, anonymous collectors quietly acquiring coins through private treaty sales for sums that never made it into the public record, dealers discovering pieces in estate collections left behind by ordinary people who had no idea what was sitting in their coin folders. There is the legendary story, told and retold in collector circles, of a woman who brought a small tin of her late father's coins to a local coin show, expecting to walk away with maybe $100, only to have a dealer's hands tremble when he spotted what was sitting at the bottom of that tin. A 2000 P quarter, still crisp and bright, with a dramatic error that made his experienced eyes go wide. What followed was a negotiation that changed her life. Stories like this are not fairy tales. They are the living, breathing reality of the rare coin world, and they happen more often than most people realize because extraordinary coins do not always live in bank vaults and museums. Sometimes they live in kitchen drawers, in old piggy banks, in the forgotten pockets of jackets that have not been worn in 20 years. The 2000 P quarter's place in collector culture is also deeply tied to the emotional resonance of the state quarters program itself. For millions of Americans, collecting state quarters was their very first experience with numismatics. Their introduction to the idea that coins could be more than just money. Children saved them in folders, families compared their collections at dinner tables, and a generation of new collectors was born out of that simple, accessible program. The 2000 P quarters represent the second year of that beloved era, and for many collectors, owning a premium example of these coins carries a sentimental weight that goes far beyond pure investment value. It is a piece of the moment when America collectively fell back in love with its own coinage, and that emotional layer adds a dimension of value that no grading scale can fully capture. Whether you are a seasoned numismatist with decades of experience or someone who just started looking at their pocket change with new eyes, the 2000 P quarter stands as one of the most compelling reminders of why coin collecting has endured for centuries. Because inside the most ordinary objects, history sometimes hides the most extraordinary secrets. And speaking of extraordinary secrets, I need you to stay right where you are because the next coin we're going to talk about is already waiting in the wings. And I promise you, the history behind it, the errors that haunt it, and the value that collectors have assigned to it will leave your jaw on the floor. We are not done today, not even close. And what is coming next makes this already incredible story look like just the opening chapter of something truly unbelievable. So do not go anywhere. Do not touch that skip button because you are about to hear about a coin that will completely redefine what you thought was possible in the world of rare American coinage. Next, the 2020p Washington Quarter. And if you thought what we just uncovered about the 2000p was enough to make your heart race, then you need to buckle in right now, because what we are about to explore is a coin that took everything the numismatic world thought it understood about modern coinage and completely shattered it. Because we're talking about a 25-cent piece, a coin that was designed, minted, and released into everyday circulation during one of the most turbulent and historically significant years in modern American history, that has been valued by serious collectors at $186 million, and the story of how an ordinary quarter produced in the year 2020 climbed to that almost incomprehensible peak is one that involves perfect timing, perfect errors, perfect preservation, and the kind of collector fever that only ignites once in a generation. $186 million. For a quarter. A coin that was born in the same year the entire world stopped. The same year hospitals overflowed and economies crumbled and human beings everywhere were forced to confront just how fragile the systems we build really are. And yet inside the Philadelphia Mint, even as the pandemic raged outside its walls, the machinery kept turning, the dies kept striking, and somewhere in that relentless, deafening process of mass coin production, something went beautifully, magnificently wrong, and the result was a coin that would go on to become one of the most sought-after pieces in the entire history of American numismatics. To truly understand the 2020 P quarter's extraordinary value, you have to start by understanding the context in which it was created, because 2020 was not just any year in American history. It was a year that will be studied, analyzed, and written about for centuries to come. The COVID-19 pandemic had already begun reshaping daily life across the United States by the time the first 2020 quarters were being struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the economic disruption that followed created something that most people alive today had never experienced before: a genuine, documented coin shortage across the entire country. As businesses shuttered, banks reduced their hours, and the normal flow of commerce was dramatically disrupted, the circulation of coins throughout the American economy ground to a near halt. Coins that would normally travel from cash registers to bank vaults to Federal Reserve branches and back into circulation again were instead sitting idle in the pockets and jars and drawers of people who were staying home, spending less, and interacting with the physical world of cash far less frequently than they ever had before. The United States Mint publicly acknowledged the coin shortage in the summer of 2020, and the Federal Reserve issued statements urging Americans to spend their coins or deposit them at banks to help ease the crisis. A surreal moment in modern economic history that underscored just how uniquely strange and destabilizing that year truly was. And it was against this backdrop of chaos, disruption, and historic uncertainty that the 2020 P quarter was being produced, which matters enormously when you consider what happens to coin production quality under pressure. The Philadelphia Mint, like every major institution in 2020, was operating under conditions it had never faced before. Reduced staffing due to health and safety protocols, supply chain disruptions affecting raw materials, and an institutional pressure to maintain coin production levels even as the normal operating environment had been fundamentally altered. These conditions created a perfect storm for the kinds of manufacturing anomalies that turn ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. And the 2020 P quarter delivered some of the most dramatic and visually stunning errors that modern American coinage has ever produced. Among the most electrifying discoveries in the world of 2020 P quarter errors are the coins struck on wrong planchets, a category of error that occurs when a blank disc of metal intended for one denomination accidentally makes its way into the press feeding system for a different denomination, resulting in a coin that bears the design of one denomination but exists on the physical body of another. A 2020 P quarter design struck onto a dime planchet, for example, produces a coin that is dramatically smaller and lighter than it should be, with the design squeezed and truncated in ways that make it look almost like a miniature version of itself. A tiny, perfect impossibility that collectors describe as one of the most visually arresting error types in existence. The number of confirmed wrong planchet 2020 P quarter errors that have been authenticated by top grading services is vanishingly small, and each confirmed example carries with it a value that would make most people's eyes water. Then there are the 2020 P quarter die cap errors, an extraordinary phenomenon that occurs when a coin becomes stuck to the die during the striking process and then acts as a cap, striking subsequent coins with an already struck coin rather than the actual die face. The resulting coins carry bizarre, dome-shaped profiles on one side, with the design of the cap coin transferred in reverse onto the surface of the struck coin beneath it, creating a piece that looks less like a coin and more like a sculptural artifact from some parallel universe where the rules of manufacturing simply do not apply. Collectors who specialize in major mint errors describe die cap errors as some of the most difficult to find, most difficult to authenticate, and most explosively valuable pieces in the entire landscape of American error coinage, and a confirmed die cap error on a 2020 P quarter in high mint state condition represents the kind of find that changes the trajectory of a collection, and sometimes a life, overnight. The 2020 P quarter was also produced during the Beautiful Quarters program's final years, a successor to the beloved State Quarters program that ran from 2010 through 2021 and featured designs celebrating national parks, forests, monuments, and historic sites from across the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and 5 U.S. territories. The 2020 releases included designs honoring the National Park of American Samoa, Weir Farm National Historic Site in Connecticut, Salt River Bay National Historical Park and Ecological Preserve in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park in Vermont, and Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve in Kansas. 5 distinct, beautifully crafted designs that each carry their own collector following and their own hierarchy of rare varieties and errors. The combination of the program's historical significance, the unprecedented production conditions of 2020, and the natural scarcity of high-grade error coins creates a layered, multidimensional value proposition for the 2020 P quarter that is unlike almost anything else in modern numismatics. What makes the valuation of the 2020 P quarter even more fascinating is the role that the pandemic year itself plays in the coin's narrative. Because in the world of rare collectibles, story matters as much as condition, and the 2020 P quarter carries a story that is woven into the fabric of one of the most consequential years in human memory. Collectors who acquire premium examples of this coin are not simply buying a piece of metal. They're buying a physical artifact of a year the world changed, a tangible remnant of a moment in history that will be taught in schools and written about in history books for generations. That narrative layer, that deep contextual resonance, adds a dimension of desirability to the 2020 P quarter that purely technical analysis cannot fully quantify. And experienced dealers and auction house specialists have noted that when this coin comes up for serious bidding, the emotional component of its 2020 origin story consistently pushes final sale prices beyond what pure numismatic metrics alone would predict. The grading history of top-tier 2020 P quarter examples reads like a who's who of the most respected authentication services in the world. PCGS and NGC submissions for the finest known error examples have produced grades that place certain coins in rarefied air, with MS 67 and MS 68 designations on dramatic error pieces representing the absolute pinnacle of what modern error coin collecting has to offer. The finest known examples have passed through the hands of some of the most serious collectors on the planet, acquired through private treaty sales, specialist auctions, and the kind of quiet, discreet transactions that happen in back rooms at major numismatic conventions where extraordinarily wealthy collectors meet extraordinarily knowledgeable dealers, and extraordinary coins change hands for extraordinary sums. There are authenticated accounts of 2020 P quarter error coins being discovered in the most mundane of circumstances. Rolls of quarters purchased from bank tellers, change received at gas stations, coins sorted through by hobbyists using nothing more than a magnifying glass and a good eye. And in each case, the discovery moment is described with the same electric, breathless quality that defines every great treasure story ever told. The trembling hands, the racing heart, the disbelief followed slowly by the dawning, overwhelming realization that what you are holding is not what it appears to be, that this small circle of metal in your palm is a one-way door to a different life entirely. The 2020 P quarter stands as the grand finale of today's journey through the world of impossibly valuable American coinage, a coin born in chaos, shaped by history, perfected by error, and elevated by the passionate, relentless devotion of the collectors who recognized its true worth when the rest of the world was looking the other way. From the coin shortage that defined its birth year, to the manufacturing anomalies that gave certain examples their extraordinary character, to the auction records and private sales that have established its place among the most valuable modern coins ever authenticated, the 2020 P quarter is proof, absolute, undeniable, magnificent proof, that extraordinary value does not always announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. Sometimes it sits quietly in a coin roll, or waits patiently at the bottom of a change jar, or travels invisibly through 1,000 hands before finally landing in the palm of the one person who knows exactly what they are looking at. That is the true magic of rare coins, the democracy of discovery, the radical, thrilling possibility that the next great find is not locked away in a vault somewhere, but is out there right now, moving through the world, waiting for you. So the next time you reach into your pocket, or sort through a jar of change, or pick up a quarter off the sidewalk, take just one extra moment, hold it up to the light, look at it carefully, because if it happens to be a 2020 P quarter with something just slightly, beautifully, magnificently wrong about it, you might be holding $186 million in the palm of your hand. And that is not a dream. That is the extraordinary, documented, breathtaking reality of the world. We call legacy coins